saw one person.
I'm Dave Griffey. I'm proxy for Jeremy Brenner, City of Lafayette.
Thank you. So you're for Jeremy, and you've already been approved, I think, in the past.
Yes, I'm approved. Yep.
Okay. Anybody else new? Thank you for announcing. Yes.
Yes, I am Jeffrey Kuhn, representing the City of West Lafayette and proxy for Mitch Langford and the city engineer.
Okay, you're representing him.
He is departed from the city, so I guess representing from as an interim.
Okay, thank you. Interim. Okay, and it's pronounced Kuhn.
Kuhn,
Okay,
correct.
good. Thank you for introducing yourself. Are we ready to proceed then with the consideration of the minutes from the last meeting? If so, please look at those some more and see if you have any suggestions for improvements. Hearing no such suggestions, a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting are in order.
So moved.
Thank you.
See where somebody says
Jeremy
second.
Jeremy usually jumps in second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. You're ready for the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The minutes are approved. Next item is the access permits, possibility for MnDOT, anything from MnDOT, Scott or otherwise.
We have 3 current permit applications. The first is with Klondike Middle School, adjacent to US 231. It is new. Application has been very recent. It's under review currently. No complications or anything really to discuss at that point. We have a minor commercial permit along State Road 38 in Dominoes. It is also under review. There were some comments about some sidewalk connectivity. We're working through some of those details. There doesn't appear to be any issues, just more making sure that comments are being addressed and connectivity is being provided for at that location. And we're moving forward with the Yeager Road project with the City of West Lafayette as it's adjacent to old US 52 or Sagamore Parkway. I think we just have some small details that we're working on the plans with one of the curb ramps. Other than that, I think everything is moving forward nicely with those permits. I have nothing to add.
All right, thank you. Scott? Any questions or comments on those? Okay, we'll be hearing about those in succeeding months.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Item 3, amend the fiscal year 2022 to 2026 TIP. Doug is rising.
Good afternoon. We have a request we received from the Tippecanoe County Highway Department to amend the current TIP, which is the 2022 to 26 TIP. Specifically, it deals with funding the construction phase of the Morehouse Road project. If you remember, it's such a large project, and with our limited amount of federal funds, we need to split this into 2 phases. The first part of the project will be constructed, or at least let for construction, in fiscal year 2024, with the following one being let in 2025. Since the project has been advancing, there have been updated construction amounts, and unfortunately, the portion, phase 2, that is just north of County Road 350 north to the Mason-Dixon part is actually going to cost more than what has been estimated, and the portion that is just north of Sagamore Parkway, the cost is not as much. And then we also have recently been informed by NDOT Central Office that the initial plans to fund the construction engineering was for during fiscal year 2024 for both phases. Unfortunately, that cannot occur. You can only obligate federal funds for construction engineering at a maximum of 4 weeks before a project is let. So additional federal funds had to be moved to the other phase that will go in 2025. Now, in looking at the numbers, of course, we still have to remain physically constrained, and NDOT still has the rule that we cannot carry over any additional federal funds. So in discussing what we can do, the only thing that is optional right now is to, like we have done in the past, is to ask other MPOs for a trade of federal funds. So that is right now what we are proposing in order to fund fully the construction phase, or the construction of both phases. So this amendment is proposing that in the future, we will seek out other MPOs to trade a portion of our 2024 funds for 2025 funds. In addition to this, is that this is not a guarantee at this time right now. This is still a few years out, but this is our thoughts and ideas. And with NDOT recently approving our TIP into the current STIP, any information in 2024, 2025, and 2026 is for information only. So they are only specifically interested in 2022 and 2023. So right now we're going and moving forward and actually proposing that in the future we will start the discussion to move these federal funds. So we're asking for your recommendation for approval to the policy board. Any questions or comments? Or would you like to follow up, Stu?
Thank you. I really thought I was going to get left holding the bag on this. That's great. Thank you.
You want action from us, or just our nodding approval that this is the way we usually go?
A recommendation to the policy board, a formal recommendation.
Okay, so we do need a motion. And the motion would be to proceed towards the initiation of exchange of funds with other MPOs to meet the requirement.
Correct.
I guess I just made a motion, and I think that's legal. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Stu. Further discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion that I made, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is read Robert's rule. I think you have an
Thank you.
approval to pass on to the policy board.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? Okay. Any other business? You have. Okay, so then, admin modifications is next. Anything there?
This is for basically information purposes. We wanted to let the committee know that we did process a TIP modification earlier this month, and it is in regard to the Lindbergh Road project. We were notified by central office of an advice change. That means that more funding is needed for the Lindbergh Road project, and they asked if we would participate using our federal funds. We have, for federal funding wise, the amount was a pinch over $35,000, so not that much. Right now, we have unobligated funds specifically for the Morehouse Road project for the right-of-way phase, and then also for the Sagamore Parkway Trail. We reached out to Stu and had, I think, a fairly good discussion of what to do, and he asked us to go ahead and proceed to reallocate the $35,023 from the right-of-way phase of the Morehouse Road project to the construction phase of the Lindbergh Road project. The letter was submitted to the district office for this modification, and it has went through. So this is for your information only that we did have that action occur. Questions or comments?
Thank you for that information. have anything on my agenda.
There's more stuff on the back.
Is there on the back? Oh, yeah, Mike, when I printed it out, I didn't take that. Good. All right, so if I'm right, I'm Roman numeral 5. You just did the admin. So we have APC progress report. And Tim, you're up.
Yeah, so the first item that I wanted to kind of let you guys know about is just where we're at with the 2050 MTP. So that is due for adoption in June of this year. So we're planning to just be giving you guys monthly updates at these meetings as to where we're at with that and what's going on currently. So right now, kind of one of the big things we've been working on is the financially constrained project list. So we've been meeting with the local government engineers to get some cost estimates and a little bit of prioritization about which of those projects they're most interested in going forward with. And so they've been very helpful in providing that. So now kind of the next step is to meet with our planning partners and, get their approval on that, as well as get some information on what projects, NDOT's going to have in the list, as they have done in the past. So we are trying to get together a meeting on the 28th is kind of the current tentative date for that. So I talked to Jay Mitchell at NDOT, and he kind of suggested a few people that he thought would be important to be there. I'm still trying to get confirmation from FHWA, FTA, as well as NDOT District. So Scott, I did reach out to Bill Smith. I don't know if he's going to want to be at this meeting or if he's going to want to designate someone, but I thought he would be a good person as, the representative to the policy board. So.
No, I think that's appropriate. Have you reached out to Travis Cole at all to see if he or anybody from his group might also want to be a part of it?
Yeah, I haven't heard back from him yet, but yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, so that's one of the big things that's going on. Additionally, several of us on staff are kind of working on putting together the plan, different sections of the plan. So I know, for instance, that Doug has been working pretty hard on the transit section, and he's given that to City Bus for their review. And once that's reviewed, then it will be able to be put into the plan. So we got some good progress on that section. And kind of the other big section that's maybe a little bit new for us would be a sustainability and resilience section. So we have a couple environmental engineers on staff, and they are hard at work on crafting that and putting together some of that important information. So that's going to be one of the big kind of highlights of what we're doing with this 2050 plan. So that's kind of what's going on, at least some of the big things currently with the 2050 plan. Are there any questions from the board about that?
Okay, we'll hear from you next month on that one.
Yes.
Thoroughfare plan update that also follows.
Yes, so this is kind of another important plan that we're working on. The current thoroughfare plan we have is old and outdated, to be quite frank. So we have been in the process of updating it for a while. It's been a little slow because we've kind of been meeting with representatives from the development community. We put together a rough draft and then kind of sent it to them to see what their thoughts were. They had some good comments about it, and so we've been able to kind of go through and address those, and we've been able to address most of those. We do have kind of one more outstanding thing we need to work with City Bus on, so we have a meeting scheduled where we're going to discuss that with them. So we're getting pretty close to adoption of a new thoroughfare plan. And I would just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who's been involved in that. I know the local government engineers have been really partnering us with working on this. City Bus has helped us throughout this process. Our staff additionally has made some pretty good comments. There have been several things that I've asked for their feedback on, and they've given us some good comments. So it's really been a pretty long effort to get to this point since we've been doing some pretty major revisions to it. But I think the final product will be worth it. So we're looking forward to adoption to that a little bit later this year.
talk about federal funding obligation. Start again.
Now, this is going to be now, or will become now, a monthly discussion regarding our federal funds for fiscal year 2022. We do not have a date yet in terms of when these funds have to be obligated. Usually it is in April, but we just wanted to make sure this committee and then also the policy board knows the status of our federal funds. The information on the top that you see is provided by NDOT. These funds have actually already been obligated, so you can see the amounts and the projects and the phase. Right below that, we have a more detailed table, and this shows the amount of federal funds that we have allocated to the projects by the federal funding type, the actual amount that has been obligated that NDOT reports, and then the balance. So as you can see, we have not allocated all of our federal funds. Basically, we have two projects which we need to do that. One is the right-of-way phase for the Morehouse Road project, and this will be straightforward, what we call a FEMAS request. So once we get a what we call a lid report from the consultant, then we can quickly proceed and submit the request to obligate those federal funds. So that will be going very quick once we get that information. The other story is the Sagamore Parkway Trail project. Unfortunately, the news we have to pass along with that is that it has been moved to an April bid letting. It was on a March bid letting, and that in order to keep that April bid letting, all of the documents that are needed will have to be approved and, well, submitted and approved by central office next Wednesday. So we reached out to the project manager last week and asked for a status report, and everything appeared to be fine. What she had, we will be doing that again actually today. So basically what we're, at least APC, is we're going to stay on top of this to make sure it does go on an April letting. There is a chance that if it does miss the April letting, we could go to a May letting, but that does raise an issue in that if the bids come back too high, what do? If that happens, we may have the possibility of actually not being able to move that project forward and lose those federal funds. So that's why we are trying to keep on top of this, especially before the next Wednesday's deadline. So we're still keeping an eye on that. So I guess stay tuned for further announcements. But otherwise, that is a summary of the report in terms of how we have obligated and what we need to obligate for this fiscal year. Questions or comments?
Doug, is that delay just all part of this whole shortage of reviewers where they're asking us to move projects back?
For the trail project, or?
Yeah.
Well, that
No,
is,
because they've asked us, to reschedule because of their review times stretching out because they don't, they're shorthanded.
well, when we had a discussion several weeks ago, the information that was submitted to the central office for their review, all of the information was submitted. There were questions about certain items. For example, how, let me see, I'm trying to word it correctly, an issue with one of the walls for Soldiers Home Road in terms of maintaining the slope. I guess that was a proposed change. And then there was some deficiencies in some of the documentation. So it was requested that it be updated so that specific things could be addressed. So the consultant has been working, fairly hard in terms of getting the information in, which they did get, and now it's just making sure that everything that's been submitted addresses all of NDOT's questions. So
that's what it's a turnaround now thing to find out if that has met all their expectations?
Well, we haven't heard of anything, at least since last Thursday. So I'm hoping that, we'll send our weekly email out after this meeting and hope to have some additional information either tomorrow or Friday. And then if anything is outstanding, we'll proceed to let who needs to know.
Do you remember that thing when I asked for the extended review periods and
Mm-hmm.
moving project?
Yeah, fortunately, they know this project and the history about it, both the reviewers. We had a fairly good meeting 2 weeks ago with central office staff and then district staff, and they're pretty much aware of this, and it appears to me that they've made this a high priority in getting the information reviewed and turned around fairly quick. That's all I have for that.
Okay. You ready for the letting list?
Of course.
Yes, always.
And we need a drum now. Drum roll, please.
Yes.
You'll find the report in your packet. Projects 1, 2, and 3 were on a December bid letting. And for project number 1, the one on State Road 38, unfortunately, the projects, or the bids that were submitted, there were 2, were rejected because they were over the engineer's estimate. And that project now will be rebid in February or next month, along with 2 additional projects, as you see later down the list. For the State Road 26, those 2 projects, those are basically at the very western part of our county. The low bid was Milestone, and it was under the engineer's estimate. The bid Milestone had was a pinch over $18.1 million, and the engineer's estimate was almost $19.3 million. So, and there were 2 bids submitted. Now, the big news, looking at projects 4 through 14, this is in regards to the widening of 65, basically north of the I-65 Wabash River bridges to approximately County Road 725 north. There were 2 bids that were submitted, basically Walsh and Milestone. It looks like Walsh had the lowest bid at $99,418,926.33. The engineer's estimate, $99,481,491.68. So Walsh was fairly close to the engineer's estimate and just a pinch under. So I did not see that it was awarded yet when I looked this morning, but with it being under, I'm assuming that it will be. So good news. And then again, construction will start on this roughly around April 1st. Looking further down, we have projects that are actually on the February bid letting. Of course, 2 of them being on 38, and now with the 3rd one, a couple district-wide projects. And then if you continue looking on that, and then at the next page, really there has been no changes. The other additional information about, about specifically the January bid letting that is more unusual than what has happened in the past is that of all of the road projects that were up for bid, 19 were rejected. That's a significant number, a very significant number. I don't think you can help me out maybe, Scott, with this. Is that pretty much very usual? There's a few, but not this large of amount. Is that correct?
I have never seen that many rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah.
So also I heard that a lot of the bids were higher than expected. So something's going on. What specifically, I don't know, but it will be interesting to see what happens in a couple weeks with the February bid letting. So stay tuned again. Questions or comments? thank you.
Doug? Is there other business for this group to consider? Have any citizen comments come in? If not, we are heading toward the next month's meeting, which will be February 16th. And unless I hear otherwise, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
And we adjourn at about 2:27. Thank you all for being here in person.